So, Mick, our turf farm down in Berry, New South Wales, Sabanto started for us easy more than a year ago now. So we're obviously in spring of 25 now. Sabanto, I think, was around it since 2023. I reckon it was a good year to 18 months ago that we started looking at it really seriously. The internet's obviously a good thing, so stuff globally comes back locally pretty quickly. When we started seeing this space happening, we thought full autonomy was further away than what it was until we saw this working on a turf farm. I think for us, the turf industry is really small and really niche. It was probably refreshing to see autonomy on a turf farm working. Like usually that stuff is large scale ag we've got to try and bring back into our small scale farming business, but to see it on already some like for like with us was really refreshing. So I reached out to him via email straight away. Actually got no follow-up, but that's not used to that. Used to that. And then we reached out again, and then friends of ours in Lawn Solutions were over at, I'm sure it was in Freycinet, World Ag Expo that's on every year. They seen it working there firsthand, touched base again, said, hey, a few of our guys over there are looking at it. I know there's a few in Australia claiming they're the first unit, but they're not. We've had a 12 to 18 months of comms. Me and Simon Adaman from Lawn Solutions Australia, who is a body that looks after all of us indirectly. Him and I spoke with Mike Burdick, the sales manager in Sabanto, and we had a Zoom. He was actually in a hotel room or some funny place at a funny hour, and we kicked off comms from there. From that conversation, we knew that there was potential for it getting to Australia, but the timing of it was all about ROI, so it was all about scalability of what they could get. In America, I think they had 100 plus units in circulation at the time. When a little turf farm from Berry says, hey, can you send one of these over the ocean? It was, no, can you go away?
I think they were waiting too for a time to enter the Australian market, and they wanted to do it right. And I guess from a dealer perspective, we're chasing that aspect as well, because everybody wants autonomy. And from a customer point of view, I think you've seen a lot of products commercialised in the small area. The less safety concerns, less dangerous, smaller blades. Now we might not be as large scale as, say, broadacre and irrigation, like broadacre agriculture. And so that's why I feel like this is a really good fit, because we're not playing with toys, but we're not playing with some equipment that is there's a lot more variables. There's more operators, other machines on farm, and, it could be a catastrophe if things didn't go to plan. And so in your early discussions with Sabanto, was it the Sabanto brand in particular that you thought was going to be able to deliver on what you wanted and what you wanted to achieve in your journey for autonomy? Because there are a lot of brands out there.
There is heaps. It's probably the main thing that stuck out for us was it wasn't a custom machine. There was still the ability to jump on it and drive it like a tractor. Like I said, the fact it was on, it's a massive one for us.
You see all those concepts, and they don't have a cab, and they look like a real robot, and it's great, but it's like a concept car. Are you ever going to see it on the road?
Them concepts worried us. We did look at a few of them, and there's other around. I know they're probably great for some business fits, but for us, it could have been, if it failed, a really expensive boat anchor that we couldn't afford. So,
well, I think the ease of moving it between farms, across highways, with the right registrations and those sorts of things in place, the right safety measures and lockouts, those sorts of things. That's kind of what we're looking for, to make sure that people don't get themselves into strife. So yeah, look, I agree. I think the concepts look great, and it's really exciting when you see some of these things out there, and you've only got to get on the socials and see some of the ideas that are out there that are really interesting. I've even spoken to Gavin, your father, on a few of those ideas and where they'd like to see the technology go. And there were lots of different considerations he brought to the conversation around weight and stability, charging. I think he had a problem where it ran into something or got broken when he was trialing some smaller stuff.
Yep.
It's all really interesting. And so kind of at this early stage of the journey, it's kind of not a bad thing when you see things go wrong, because it's what we spoke about earlier, I think it's a really good opportunity to see what can go wrong, because you may not have thought about it yet. If we can catch it early, we can really spread that out.
So I suppose our business to start with, we struggle locally with finding strong skilled labour. Obviously a seasonal business, so we come and go in certain times and certain time pressures. I think the last 2 years are really evident with, especially the Christmas break, when grass is growing. It's work's busy, life's busy, everyone's worn out by the time Chrissy comes because that's our peak season. There's nothing worse than there's that 2-week gap with friends and family, and you feel bad for making everyone work. So you're the silly bloke on the back of a tractor on New Year's Eve and all the other things. I sat there going, this isn't a sustainable thing from I suppose, a holistic standpoint in a way. And this was I thought, there's no time than ever at these pressure times a year, whether it's times you don't want to be working or grass is growing faster than you can sustain with your current staff setup. So it was doing stuff that we couldn't currently do. Not only that, we had a few tractors of age, we had a few business purchases happening, and staff adjustments and shortfalls. It was like, how can we get something here that fixes our staff shortfalls, fixes our time pressures where to have them spend north of $250,000 on another tractor and setup. So we thought if we could fit this into our business, it will catch up on the bits where we can't mow grass fast enough, because this is obviously predominantly for mowing for our business. And then also the skilled trained staff we have, I don't want them sitting on a mower for 10, 12 hours a day. In the nicest way, it's not a high value work item for our skilled people. So now we can better resource our business in certain areas in time pressures.
You're not aiming at replacing people, but just finding a better allocation of labour and skilled labour at that.
It's been really funny. In the short months that we've had it, I actually think we're going to increase our labour force, not lower it. We don't have these shortfalls in certain spots, so we're able to put people into trucks and other areas, and now it's allowed us to go, hang on, we're actually short in this other part of our business. It's now more reachable to expand that way, because our main thing of, we're here to grow grass, and now we've got that sorted with the ability of Sabanto looking after.
It's increased your productivity.
Big time.
Yeah.
And then I think productivity was the first thing for it. At the end of the day, you're running a business. There's obviously the money side of it too. I think for us, that was secondary to productivity, and efficiency was probably first, and I suppose monetary side of it would have been the secondary bit.
Yeah. Just doing it better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it takes its time. It cruises around. It's religiously working and turning at the same speeds. How have you found it actually fitting into the farming ecosystem?
A lot quicker and easier than I thought. So I think for any type of agriculture, it's the next step, this autonomy. Fortunately for us, I think in the nearly 40 years we've been here for, we've always been, I think, industry leaders in the uptake of newer stuff.
Yeah.
And we sell lots of smaller robotic mowers now to home lawns. So we know the tech's there and it's working. All of our tractors are already GPS controlled anyway. I think for us it wasn't a big leap. It was just the next progression, the next step for us. So risk wasn't really a worry for us. And the fact it's come here and it's working now, it's changed the way we've operated every part of our business.
Yeah.
All for the better. It's good.
What I've enjoyed about working with your team here at Turfco is that everybody's been really willing to accept that sometimes it takes a process change or some equipment needs to be adjusted in the way it's worked across multiple farms that you're running here. Even just the mowers. Tell me about your mowers and what you've done to better apply the Sabanto technology.
For sure. I think for the first part, we're really lucky here actually that all of our staff are flexible in their mindset. I think mindset's a massive thing with introduction of anything.
It's a great culture here, by the way.
Thank you.
You can tell really quickly.
It's a real team effort there, which is really good. But I think flexibility in mindset's massive for any business. So we come here going, stuff's going to change. We'll see how it goes. We've gone from a 7 metre wide mower, obviously a substantial investment, going back to a 3 metre wide mower, which is about a third of the cost, sometimes a little bit less. So we're actually able to heavily reduce our capital. We would have reduced our capital from a farming point of view in terms of tractors and implements by probably a third.
Yeah.
And I think our productivity would have increased by a third. So automatically, our implement that we have running, the Sabanto unit with the autonomy on it and the tractor, that whole lot's paid for itself already.
Fantastic.
Pretty unbelievable.
Because it's a big debate in the autonomous race at the moment is that high cost and that capital cost. And let's face it, everything's becoming more expensive.
Yep.
Whether they're input costs or machinery costs, labour, the lot. Everything's really starting to attack the bottom line. And so I think this whole discussion around smaller machines, but more of them, and I don't mean even just a small robot.
Yeah.
I think the size that we're talking about here is highly productive, has the ability to be highly productive. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens in the space over the next few years as the technology and the hardware solution develops.
Definitely. And this tech that's coming out, so I suppose you touched on bottom line before. That's obviously why everyone's here, to make a living and provide for family and all the rest of it. But products often governed by the supply and demand and the rest of it. And we're at a point now where costs are increasing, but market isn't shifting in a similar way. Whilst our costs are getting up, it's been a harder way to push the market to reflect that, and I suppose on-bill it with price changes and that. So we've got to turn to efficiencies.
How competitive is your industry?
Extremely. And it's extremely competitive, and a lot of people are price point businesses. I mean, we can't afford to be. Half our competitors can't, and some just do it.
Yeah.
It's not a healthy spiral that goes on. It's been refreshing that new tech's allowed us to increase efficiency and improve bottom line in ways where before was a lot harder to do.
And improve the quality of your product as well. Like even some of the comments you made about your mower widths and things like that, you're finding less scalping, more controlled turns, things like that. Are you seeing a difference in the grass? And
I think we're seeing a massive difference in the grass in this short time period, and also tractor wear too. Like humans by nature, I'm a bit of a bull at gate, so I'm probably the worst person to. I mean, I'm a bull at a gate, so I'm a good example of this. When you're mowing, you want to get home, you want to rush through everything, so you're going faster than you should.
Yep.
You're turning quicker than you should. You're doing things that aren't the best for the grass, but they're the best for you. Because we've removed the person with this new unit we got through here, we're able to do every task on every paddock as it should be done to benefit the grass, not the individual. So that's already paying dividends for us in quality of grass.
No, I can see, because the place looks fantastic. I was here maybe a month or so ago. And yeah, look, the season's progressed as well. There's been a bit of rain, but the place looks great.
And to be able to catch up with, so we're in a really funny climate here. It's 52 weeks a year, obviously. Our grass probably only grows in about 16 of them, but probably 8 of that 16 can be really intense period.
Yep.
It's full on grass, I'm talking.
Yeah,
we got this surge of weather in the last week where we had late 20s, we've had stormy weather, we've had rain. Grass can grow 10 mil a day easily here. With manual tractor operation, we can't compete with that grass growth. We end up with clipping everywhere and that. But now we have the Sabanto doing it autonomously, we've been able to match the grass growth with cutting, which is good.
Yep. And has one machine kept up? Obviously, you've only just implemented the technology, and you're still getting your head around logistically how it can operate, return back to refueling stations, things like that. But is it keeping up with the workload?
It's keeping up with the workload because we're not governed by an 8-hour day.
Yep.
And you're not governed by not wanting to push worker fatigue and all the rest of it. So the way our smaller machine can keep up with it is by working longer, and it's doing that.
Great, because I'm sure it takes time to work out all the idiosyncrasies and even what improvements are going to be made in time with our discussions, yours and mine, back to Sabanto and feature requests, product improvement requests. So yeah, look, I'm really interested to see where it goes, having seen how successfully it's been integrated in such a short amount of time. Like, we're just dipping our toe in the water. And I think by day 2, I mean, the guys from Sabanto came in a day and a half, they had it installed. By the second half of the second day, we were literally in the paddock mapping. And by day 3, we were leaving at the end of the day in confidence that, look, it's going to do its thing, and then it's going to park itself up, and then we'll come back and spend some more time with it the next day. So like, it was pretty quick and easy to implement from an installation perspective. And how have you gone with the farm mapping and the feature mapping and the software, the UI, the user interface?
It's all been, I mean, new tech, obviously there's teething errors. Error is probably not the word. There's teething with any of this. So in our minds, when we got the machine, we said, look, the first 6 weeks, it's going to be painful for us. We need to mentally put that aside for learning it all. But we've probably come pretty apt with it quicker than we thought. The whole user interface and that has been different to what I thought. I wouldn't say harder, I'd say different. But we've got confidence with it now. The biggest headache for us with this autonomy is thinking like the robot, not like a person driving. So you automatically, when you're operating a tractor, you'll turn here, you'll back up here, you'll do this without thinking twice about it. It's just a natural instinct that'll do it. You got to remember the robot doesn't have it. So I think it's been a bit humorous at times, but I think that's been our biggest learning curve with that is remember there's not a human being on there and it thinks differently to us.
Yeah, I think the success of the technology will depend on how well that human behaviour is mimicked.
Yep.
And look, from my perspective, I've had a lot of experience with ag electronics over the last 20 years or so, and I've kind of seen that journey from basic receivers with a small black and white screen through to watching those user interfaces develop. And sometimes it takes the customer to say, why isn't that button here? Because you're using it all day, every day. And sometimes that feedback is what drives progression of the technology as well. And sometimes you just click and you go, well, that's a really good idea. It's something so basic, but you're so entrenched in what you're delivering day in, day out that we really need to listen to growers. And as it again gets back to, the more farms we can get onto in a controlled environment where we can get that feedback, drive it back into the product development, I think is going to really, really ensure the success of this as time goes on.
Definitely. And you touched on like Sabanto, Vantage and the Australian industry. I actually think in time we'll give them more and more requests and more changes will happen from Australia benefiting their industry because we aren't a large scale, a lot of the US guys. So we do more with less. And I think us doing more with less will help them improve.
I think you'll be surprised. I think we look at Australia as a small market globally. But I think from what I've seen in ag tech and the innovation over the years, Australian farmers are really innovative. And maybe it's our isolation, but we kind of got to make it work. And we'll actually twist it and morph it to fit what we need it to achieve. And sometimes I'll go back to my suppliers and they're really interested to hear how we're applying their technologies.
Yeah.
It's not the way they intended, but they go, well, hell, that's pretty good. Like, that's a pretty good use.
Well, I think their heads are already ticking a little bit when they got here going, what's that for? What's that for? So I want that to be autonomous, that to be autonomous. And they're going, nah. And I said, well, it's just PDO plus the toggle switch. They're going, that's doable. So I think we'll see a lot in the short future of more adaptability of different implements autonomously.
And that's a really good point because, I mean, I have a lot of customers come to me saying, when's the autonomous kit released? Like there's some finality in that. And I have to describe to people, well, once we automate this next process or this next application, what's next? So the autonomous journey doesn't stop. I mean, so I mean, once we've automated mowing, let's automate spreading. And then if we're going to automate spreading, we're going to have to automate the refill. Otherwise, it's not fully automated. We're still, in that interaction and that intervention of someone having to be here and really tend to that machine, spraying's the same. If we've got to refill a tank or mix chemical, how far do you go until everything's autonomous? We don't need to be here. I think that's a long way off, but it's not impossible either.
I don't think so. I think for the short future of us, we know the autonomy works. It's here and it's doing it, and it's funny to see how similar. Like I said, I touched on we do a fair bit in the small domestic world with robotic mowers. How similar these two are, just on different scales. They're a lot more alike than what I thought.
Yeah.
But I see our business we're not the world's biggest turf farm by any means, but I see our business lending itself to more than one of these units and having one person organising the two of them.
Yeah.
I think that
tending to multiple machines.
Definitely. And I think that refill thing this is probably a little bit off topic, but refilling boom sprays and spreaders, we're already planning on, we're not worried about it going empty. I just like a sensor when it does, and we'll drive to it.
Yeah, I think the integration of the implements and the feedback, tire pressure monitoring, weather conditions, all the more information we can collect and set those parameters around the machine operation, I think the more reliable the technologies will be. Where do you want to see it go? What after you're happy with mowing, what do you think's the next? What's on the horizon?
If we're just talking turf, which obviously we're the turf farmers, we're all the low hanging fruit or boring jobs basically we wanted to see do. So mowing was one that's time consuming and quite monotonous.
Yep.
We do a lot of aerating. We've got a few different ways we do it, but every way you aerate in a turf farm is sub 2 k's an hour.
Yeah.
So their job, no one wants to be half go to sleep. So we know it can do one of the two implements we have. We reckon it can do the second, and then the next one over is, which we know it can already do it, ground cultivation, rotary hoeing, and all the rest of it. Again, we're looking at anything sub that 2k mark that's monotonous, mind-numbing, and that our current operators hate doing.
Yeah.
We'd like to pass it there because we get more productivity, we get more efficiency, and staff happiness and job satisfaction's massive.
Yep.
And if you're not sitting on a tractor for a week going 1.6 k's an hour, you're pretty happy.
Yeah, that's a really good angle to come from. For me, it's really important that the journey we take into the autonomous realm, I guess, is a safe one.
Mm-hmm.
Because we've had a lot of success with existing technologies and we've implemented them across a range of operations across Australia. But we've always felt really confident in understanding the deliverables. And so there's not many times I say no. It's kind of, we can do anything you want, but let's work out if we can justify the expense and the time and obviously ensure the safety of it all. So I think for us, one of the key concepts that we've never really spent a lot of time looking at is actually gauging the customer and understanding their willingness to interact with the autonomy and the new products safely. Are they willing to, like we spoke about earlier, adjust processes on farm, rethink purchasing decisions on their machinery and their implement types and brands? I think we're in an era where generally the consumer's more open to new brands and new ideas. Look at the EV market and some of the brands that are popping up out of nowhere. So I think it's a really good time and place for people to really start thinking about where this journey could take them, and without blinkers on. Say John Deere, for example. I mean, they've had such a stranglehold on agriculture for so many years, and I think they make a fantastic product. What's the landscape going to look like in another 20, 30 years as more of these tech options begin to emerge? Who's maybe going to come to market with something that is, or that does have the potential to disrupt? So look, I guess getting back to my original point is we've probably spent more time than normal evaluating our customer as well. Normally the phone rings and somebody says they want to buy something and you sell it to them. You offer them something that's going to solve the problem they're asking to solve, and there's an exchange and everybody's happy. With the autonomous landscape, it's a little bit different because we want to make sure that we're able to continue to successfully deliver the technologies.
Yep.
And unfortunately, I think some people just aren't they're not positioning themselves to adapt and adopt the technologies safely and efficiently.
I think their heads can be in the wrong spot to start with too. Like autonomy, for example, we're going down to smaller tractors. We're trying to reduce our capital, increase our efficiency. I think some people are stuck with what they got, and they're not knowing that what you're trying to push through that way is saving money and improving efficiencies. But even from I suppose our relationship kicked off with Sabanto. But since we were chatting last time, we were talking stuff that can talk back into it through boom spraying and other things. Our head's in a spot that we'll touch on probably later on, going, Mick, can we do this, this and this if we get a secondary unit? I reckon there's a way I could probably have a hybrid type setup that would complement us in our other shortfalls.
It's going to be really interesting to have those conversations, because the mind, like every job I go to now, I think about what are the variables, even if we're not working with an autonomous piece of equipment. It's like, how are we going to make these decisions, or how are we going to operate this unmanned without that feedback, without that information loop?
Yep.
Even watching some of the satellite and cellular outages there a couple of weeks ago. I mean, it brings the technology to its knees.
Yep.
What are the fallbacks? What are the obsolescent technologies that we're relying on? How foolproof are they? And until we see some of those, we're not going to think of it.
No, I think that manual override's pretty key. We said back on the retrofit unit or a custom built thing.
Yep.
Because we did have it the other week when the AWS went out and we lost Starling for that time. Our Sabanto unit played up for a little bit, which is life. You got to expect tech does that. But the ability to flick the switches down and get on and still mow the paddock was pretty good.
And think about, say, spraying, or more particularly spreading, more specifically spreading in the future. If you see a rain event and you don't want to work away at 7-8 Ks, you can get on. You can spread faster. You're not sacrificing job quality. Spraying might be a little bit different. You'll have that speed range.
Yeah.
And so, that ability to make decisions in the business and say, there's a rain event coming. We've got to get this fertilizer out. Our autonomous equipment can't operate at that speed. Let's throw a human in there, into the mix, and just get it done.
I think it mitigates your risk a fair bit from a purchasing point of view as well.
Yes.
But then you've always got the money side and the productivity side, and they're working well together. Do you want a beer?
Oh, I'd love one, mate.
Thank you. So do I.
Cheers.
There's no bottle opener,
We've
I
got an
don't think.
audience. Cheers, mate.
Cheers.
But yeah, that was, I guess that's an interesting point we raised earlier was, you said the safety of your investment with Sabanto being like a retrofit onto an existing machine. I mean, technology's going to change. What's even the Sabanto solution going to look like in 5, 6, 7 years? So in terms of, do you take that kit off a machine, put on another one? At the end of the day, if you did decide to pull that system off and move it to something else, you're left with a John Deere tractor that's perfectly functional, that'll keep on farm. It's still saleable. You could swap it, trade it for something else.
Especially with new tech as well. Like, we go back to having a purpose-built unit, concerns about that as time goes on, serviceability, and then people still around and all the rest of it. Nothing against that. But for our business, we bought a tractor. We spoke to you guys. We bolted the kit on it. If it wears out in 5 or 10 years' time, or we've made it work, it's absolute backside off.
Yeah.
We unbolt the kit and it's just a tractor. That was pretty comforting for us.
And look, that concept may just mean there's a different platform kit, and it can now interface to a different spec tractor. Same colour, different different tech. It might have a can steering valve already in the machine. There's a lot of different ways that these guys will develop and I guess grow out their platform solutions as well. And that comes from time in the market, and I guess demand for the brand.
Yeah, sorry to cut you, but even the fact there's resale to start with.
Exactly.
Like in your 5, 10 years' time, I don't care if the resale's 5, 10 grand or whatever, at least there's some part of it, which is a bit just back that mitigating the risk that we spoke of and surety with the investment, which is there.
No, look, I like that concept, and we've always tried really hard to have that that brand agnostic, multi-brand approach. It doesn't matter what colour tractor or what implement you have, and I guess in 2025 we say we're not racist. We don't know what colour, don't care what colour tractor you are. So it's really easy for us to come into farm to deliver the same solution that's common for the operators, the managers, everyone on farm. You choose to buy your equipment from the dealer that's going to be able to support you the best with that piece.
I think support's pretty massive. Even like, we've obviously got a green tractor behind us here. That's all we run here. We enjoy the tractors. They work well for us, and our support's really, really good locally.
Yep.
And then you look and you talk on other parts of the state, in different parts, they use different colour tractors purely from a support reason. And then when we had this first Sabanto convo 12 to 18 months directly with them, there was, cool, this tech's really good. When it gets on our shore, how do I have confidence that someone in America is going to service their product. Not saying they'd neglect it, but purely from a logistical nightmare point of view.
Yeah.
Then by the time it landed on the shores, Energy New South Wales here to support you, it was such a relief from me and everyone else in the business, because that would concern if a red light starts flashing and it stops working. Do you wait for the time zone to sort out with over there? But it's comforting to see the support's here, because every single thing we buy, trucks, we run all the same brand of trucks because our support's awesome and the product's good. Tractors are green, support's great. I think every part of our business has that support, that we go back to that brand, and now it's comforting to see that we'll have that here. So
how's that felt, having effectively a manufacturer all the way over in the US and a dealer that's still a few hours drive away? How's the integration been and felt? Have you with technology and the fact that we've been able to monitor the machine alongside you, kind of like we're on farm?
Yep.
How's that integration felt?
Really good from a comfort point of view. It's been really easy for us, because this has been, also we've had GPS and stuff like that around for a while. The full autonomy thing is foreign to all of us still. So the fact that support was there to start with, and it's been great from you guys and abroad. And timing was pretty well with us getting here and us all getting together at the same time. So there wasn't a lapse in support in the teething stage, which is really good.
Yeah, I think from a dealer perspective, you just, if you don't support autonomous equipment, there's just no space in the market. You're not going to win.
No, that's for probably any equipment as well. I mean, Aussies are impatient by nature. Farmers are probably worse. So if something goes wrong, not that we expect everything, but a lot of us can be quite demanding when stuff isn't right, irrespective of what the input costs were. So to have instant support, or as instant as it can be, is, again, comforting for what we're doing.
With the cost of equipment and technology these days, I think that's justified too. And so for us, that onus on that responsibility in servicing, look, an example I'll bring up is I had a customer ring me a few weeks ago, and he was having trouble with what is probably an $900,000 tractor. And he just wasn't receiving the communication. It wasn't even that the dealer was trying hard enough. Like he didn't care that the issue wasn't resolved, but he didn't feel as though he's getting the attention it deserved.
Yeah.
And I said, look, I asked you to spend 20 grand to put an aftermarket solution in the cab. I said, I'll bleed from the ears until we find any problem, get to the bottom of any problem. And I think that really resonated with him. And he said, and that's why I'm just never going to deal with anybody else.
Yeah. As
long as you can continue to provide that support. And for me, that's been a really important aspect. As our business has grown and scaled, it's really been about not leaving anyone behind. And I can't even move into new parts of my product portfolio unless I know my core's really tight and everyone's being supported as well as they have been in the past.
Yeah.
So that's really been something we've been focused on in our business. It's training those guys coming up through the ranks, making sure, Tom, you met Tommy, one of our junior techs. He's not a junior anymore. He's really starting to develop.
Yeah, no, he was cluey. He was really good.
But it's about bringing those guys in and actually giving them an opportunity to excel and learn and grow. And sometimes that comes with the opportunity that other people in the business, we don't move on, but we can actually spend more time on other things. It's a little bit like you're implementing autonomy on your farm. You can now focus on the other big rocks that help you really drive it to become a bigger, better business.
For sure. Yeah, I think there's similarities across autonomy gear, manufacturer or seller of the tractor, and our businesses too of changing what we're doing to get the results.
And do you think machinery dealers are going to have to adopt a different way of approaching the customer and their requirements? If you're choosing a tractor for something you're going to be hands-on with, or from an autonomous application?
Yeah, definitely. That was quite interesting from our behalf, actually, because we were used to buying, obviously, a certain colour tractor that we have, and we used to buy the one with all the bells and whistles purely for driver comfort. We wanted that in-cab suspension. We wanted all the luxuries in it, because to attract good people to do what you
Got
want,
to make it comfortable.
you got to make it comfortable. And then we've done the flip side that there's no human being in this. So we couldn't care less about driver comfort because no one's driving it.
Yeah.
So on the first phone call, the dealer who supports us really well, I said, Dan, we want this tractor. He goes, no, you don't. I said, yeah, we do. He goes, I don't sell them. He goes, they're not something you sell. They're uncomfortable, this, that, and the other. And I said, that's the reason we want it. There was apprehension to even quote it to start with, going, are you sure that's what you want? So I think there's going to be a shift in core sales for their businesses with autonomy. But also on the flip side, we were looking at updating our fleet every 10 years, roughly every 10,000 hours. Sometimes it's sooner, sometimes it's later, purely talking tractors. Now that, whilst it's a more basic, cheaper tractor, this thing's going to be working its backside off. It'll have 10,000 hours up in 5 years.
Yeah.
We're going to be updating every 5 years now, and it's every 10. So I think no one's missing out. It's just change, not in a good or bad way. It's just different. And it's right across the board in this. It's just it's a circle or cycle, whatever you want to say, in all parts of people here, B2B and consumer manufacturer. We're all doing things different than what we did even a year ago, 6 months ago.
Yeah.
It's good.
It's change. And yeah, I think it's all for the better. I think the mentality that autonomy is going to replace people, and that's what we're all out here to do. And Big Brother's watching with every extra piece of technology that we bolt on. It's really not. It's really here to just make things better for everybody, more efficient, higher levels of productivity, and like you said, that staff satisfaction when they come to work every day, they can actually enjoy doing what they have to do. You're allowed to come to work and have fun is something we say in our business.
Yeah.
It's quite a conservative industry, agriculture, but we have to be serious about the things that we're working on, but you are allowed to come to work and have fun.
Everyone should love what they do, whether you're an owner, an employee, and all the rest of it. But any negative comments we get with autonomy, and probably you guys, they come from a place of no education. That was a politically correct way of me saying that. They're not a farmer. They don't know it firsthand. They don't know I wouldn't say job struggles or anything, but they don't know the pressures and the problems we face and what we're trying to solve.
Yeah.
We're not trying to move people on. We're trying to get our job done. We don't want to be here 12, 14, 16, 18 hours a few times a year. We want to be
in the heat with the flies, spraying dangerous chemicals and doing different things. I think there's a lot of people that look in on ag and I think it's our job to educate. We're not here to tell anybody they're wrong or their opinion doesn't matter. But we do see a lot of opinions seep through that aren't really grounded in fact.
And they're never from an agricultural person. They're from an outsider, just, I don't know, probably want to waste some words or whatever they want to do. But I think anything negative we see, ahead wasn't there for that. We had shortcomings, as in all of agriculture does.
Yeah.
There's worker fatigue, there's worker satisfaction, not having enough time in the day to get the stuff done.
Yeah.
This just, I suppose, fixes problems that us as people couldn't solve. Yeah. And it's good.
Yeah, I'm not sure how many times you've heard it over the years, but a lot of people think that they can do the same as you, do what you do it better, do it smarter, more efficiently. But the proof's in the pudding when people get out there and actually really have a crack. They work out there's a lot more that they don't know. And sometimes you can't hold people accountable for not understanding what they don't know. But I guess in the autonomy landscape, I mean, we've been automating farms for 20 years. Farms have been automating and implementing automation across their farms for longer than that, since the wheel was invented.
Yeah.
They're all incremental steps. And I think, we all feel like we've just taken a huge leap, but there's been a succession of events that have and technologies and integrations that have brought us to this point. So, I applaud you guys for jumping in, having a go, because, we really need customers who are so willing to put it on the line. And I don't mean take huge risks in terms of capital or safety, but I mean, I'm pretty comfortable sitting right where we are.
Well, we're drinking a beer a couple metres away from a tractor working next to us.
Cheers, mate.
We might have to pause some volume here as it drives on by.
But at some point in time, you've got to take a risk.
You do.
And I think as a dealer, it becomes a little bit more complex because you don't want to turn into the R&D department for your supplier. And I've said that over the years. So you guys have got to develop a product and bring it to me. Oh, sure, we can work together to streamline it, enhance it, add features. But ultimately, the supplier has to come to us with a product that we can take to market. It's got to be commercially viable.
I think the proof was in the pudding just then when it drove past.
I think the proof will be on the next pass back.
Yeah, that's fair. That's more important. I might have to jump and move chairs.
Veer up a bit higher.
But no, I think back on that, I think our business is nearly 40 years old now. We've always been innovative in thought and what we're doing, and future-proofing is a pretty massive thing.
Yep.
My old man started in the late 80s. He's had kids. We've all been fortunate enough to work in and around it, good and bad, in the family businesses. Yeah, everyone knows it all. And then now we've got the next stage. My kids are only really young, and saying the other thing, not that that's bought for kids or thought moving forward, but we need to start looking now for 5 years down the track. You don't look at 5 years down the track, 5 years down the track.
No.
So the thought was jumping on board with the first person now, because I'm not looking at 2025, I'm looking at 2030 when we're going to have bigger pressures, bigger problems, older tractors.
But you don't know what those are yet. And I think that's why you've probably applied similar concepts in your own business that I have in mine. When I was running a smaller business, I always felt like I was over-engineering it.
Yeah.
But then opportunities arose, and it's like, we can just slide right into that, and it just works because, it's not by accident. We've positioned ourselves that way. And I think this is another example of how you've positioned your business for progression, for culture, for all of those things that we've talked about. But, this isn't going to be the last thing you're going to implement. Like I said, this is a journey. You haven't made it now that you've implemented autonomy, but now what else can we adapt and change in the business, and how can we partner in together to really drive and understand what you guys are trying to achieve, and really understand everything about your operation.
Yep.
To really help you squeeze the most out of that investment.
Well, I think from the most simplest point of view is our business here to grow turf and sell turf and give the customer the best product we can in the most efficient time, and to service a demanding market. So this is just a little piece that's added to our toolkit to allow us to wear off for a bit.
I don't
allow
want
us
to
to.
Can we stop the tractor?
Phone's not on. Nah,
It'll get your tripod. No, maybe not.
Do you want me to turn it off? Is it still rolling? Is it still live? You can keep it live. Sorry, I'll just turn it off. My phone just said, careful, there's been something wrong.
Mo, stop for a beer.
Sorry, I'll turn it off so we can continue.
I thought you said these things keep working all the time. I didn't know they get thirsty. Needs a refuel. I've got to be careful sometimes because I actually don't really like putting on a salesman's hat. Where I've taken our business over the last few years, we've really been on this crazy trajectory, and it's because I think it really resonates with our clients that they know they can come to us for real advice. And look, we're here talking about Sabanto, but what other offerings are we going to have over the years? And if Sabanto's not the best fit, there may be another brand that we use for different applications. And we could talk all day, but I think there's a lot of other technologies that we're going to introduce to you over time. And, I kind of don't want to I don't want a brain explosion when we're trying to get our head around a certain piece. But I'm already forward projecting into the different things that we're going to be able to bolt onto these things, and whether it's scouting and data collection or weed libraries or there's so many other crazy ways that we're going to be able to integrate other technologies
Yeah.
that are just have the potential to be just as transformative as autonomy in the machine itself.
And some of the stuff you touched on with that a while ago was that's benefit to our business. But with that tech, it's actually going to allow us to tell a bit of a story to the customer too. So there'll be a big point of difference from you guys to us. Then that'll flow on from us to our customers that we'll be able to pass on to them, which is, I mean, just talking back to turf, it's a big investment change for someone. You touched on the lawn you redone at your house the other year. Like it's a final piece to their new build, their renovation. It changes everything. If we can help tell a story from I don't like to use the cliche paddock to plate type stuff, but if we can push on some of that information, people get a kick out of that.
I think they really
helps
do.
us and helps you and pushes through that way.
I didn't realise, but yeah, recently some customers made a comment to me that really made me understand that whole paddock to plate thing. I mean, that's the story on the label, on the meat packet. And look, we're out there trying to reduce costs primarily for our customers, less chemical, less insecticide. But really, at the end of the day, it ticks all these other boxes for environmental sustainability, and even just that corporate social responsibility piece that smaller businesses probably aren't exposed to. There's no directive for our business to apply those concepts. As the corporates are really forced to really investigate those opportunities.
Yeah, and you and I probably live amongst anyone in their business, live so inside the box sometimes. All these tech improvements and offerings, we probably think so often, whether it's business to business or business to consumer, undervalue them little insights and the benefit people would get from it. So to be in a
100%.
position that we're talking now is autonomy is the first thing, that's cool, we're doing it without someone in it. Then what other offerings can we add to help us and then push it through to the end consumer?
Well, look, the autonomous piece is so central to the machine, but the whole reason we're in the paddock is because of the implement.
Very close to it in the paddock, but we're all good.
Yeah. So, I think if we can think of new ways to implement more technology in the implement, feed that data back into the machine and into that ecosystem, I think the world's our oyster.
Yeah, absolutely. And just in terms of, what gets measured gets managed. We're now in a spot now that stuff that we're relying on operator insight or operator vision, and people get busy, the phone rings, you forget that stuff. This is all in real time, live data.
Yep.
It can nearly all just, sort that information without you having to do any work now, can't it?
It can. And one thing I haven't asked you, is there anyone on your farm that you think is going to wear that hat of the champion of this solution, of your autonomous solution? Who's the main overseer? Is it you?
No, it's not me. It's Ross, who actually used to do a lot of the manual mowing.
Yep.
It's been really, really comforting to see the excitement he's received with this new implement coming. There's, let's get it to do this, let's get it to do that, I think. And then that's had a flow-on effect with other staff members in the office, outside. Why can't I do this? How can we do this? And I don't think there's been any apprehension at all to it. I think it's been quite the opposite. I think we've seen this autonomy kit has been probably the only tech improvement or business investment, capital investment, however you want to word it, that we've put in that has seen such a positive ripple effect through all aspects of our business. Not only that, our main two farms either side of the highway, where we're sitting just here on the west, the office is on the east. The fact that this is highway frontage going by without an operator in it.
Yeah, we could have some fun with that.
It's a pretty cool thing.
Yeah.
We've had a few people drive past aware that there's no one in it, and there hasn't been a, hey, your tractor's rolling down the hill yet. That'll come, don't worry about it. But it's been a bit of a draw to our business, which is cool.
Yeah, nice spin-off.